Let's get married.
My boyfriend, Mike, suggested. Even then, I couldn't make up my mind. It's not that I had any issues with Mike. No, in fact, I understood that he was a wonderful man I didn't deserve. I was thrilled when he proposed, and I wanted to say yes right away. But, dear, you should get married without worrying about me, my mother, Erica, jokingly said. I can't just leave you behind, Mom. I replied. At the moment, Mom is hospitalized in the biggest hospital in the city. She's on the topmost floor in the terminal care unit. She wasn't born with any illness, but she suddenly fell ill when I was in college, and since then, she's been hospitalized. I wonder how many years it's been now.
You have to grab your own happiness, right? Besides, with a mother-in-law like me, you won't have a stable married life,
she said. Well, that's true, but her words were reasonable. However, I am indebted to her for raising me, a child that wasn't even her own, by herself. Day by day, as I watch her health deteriorate, all I want is for her to recover. That was my wish.
Can you bring your boyfriend next time? I'd like to meet him,
she said. Even though it's a struggle for her to stay awake, she seemed excited to meet him, so I couldn't help but agree. I knew that Mom didn't have much time left, that there was barely anything left I could do for her, and that the one thing I could do for her was to let her see me as a bride. Mom, he's here, I said. The next day, I timed it so that Mike would arrive after Mom's checkup.
Come on in,
I heard her say. I felt a sigh of relief. What would I do if I couldn't hear her voice? I always found myself thinking that way.
Pleased to meet you,
Mike said as he entered the room after me, visibly nervous.
Is he the one?
My mother asked, looking at Mike, who straightened his back at her gaze.
Yes, I am dating your daughter,
he replied. He sounded like a soldier standing at attention. It seems like my mom had the same thought, and she chuckled. Sit down, no need to be so nervous, she invited him, pointing to the folding chair.
So you're Mike, right?
Yes, Mike Johnson, Mom,
he replied, using the casual American term for mother-in-law.
Oh, calling me Mom so soon, aren't you eager?
She teased.
I'm sorry,
Mom, stop. Mike, don't worry. She's not really mad. I interjected, seeing my mother holding back her laughter and Mike finally realizing he hadn't said anything wrong. He looked relieved.
I've been ill for so long that I've become impatient. Please forgive me,
she prefaced, and then she asked,
Mike Johnson, will you take care of my daughter?
Mom was never a hurried person. In fact, she was more of a laid-back type. But after she fell ill, her life became uncertain, never knowing what tomorrow would bring. Maybe it was then she started to be more blunt, more direct, almost as if she didn't have much time left. Mike didn't know this side of Mom. He just looked straight back at her and simply said, yes. That was probably enough for Mom.
All right, I understand.
She took a deep breath, let it out, and nodded firmly.
Please take care of Clara.
It seemed as if she was gathering her last bit of strength, entrusting something precious to someone else. I couldn't bear to look directly at her.
I will. I'll make her happy, even if it costs me my life.
Mike's words, which would normally make me jump for joy, passed through my ears like they don't concern me. Mom, are you really okay with this? You might die alone in this empty hospital room, with no one else visiting you except me. I felt like going up to the rooftop and shouting in that very moment. If shouting could solve everything, how wonderful it would have been. Reality is always the ultimate realist. Things that happen in novels and movies, they don't happen here. I'll come again. I didn't even know what the three of us talked about. Before I knew it, the setting sun was casting an orange light into the hospital room. As if being considerate of me, Mike left the room first, and I followed him.
Clara.
At the sound of Mom's calm voice, I involuntarily stopped in my tracks.
Mike's full name. It was Mike Johnson, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. What's going on? After a moment of thought, Mom leaned over to reach for the drawer in the TV stand next to her bed. I'll do it. The TV stand was just out of reach from the bed. Mom hardly watches TV, so the nurses had moved it to a position that would make their work easier. As directed by Mom, I opened the small safe inside the drawer of the TV stand.
Can you get that box?
This one. It was the box where Mom kept her precious pendant. The only pendant owned by Mom, who doesn't wear makeup. It's probably not an expensive piece. The kind of pendant a high school student could buy after saving their allowance. But Mom had been cherishing it, never wearing it. I thought it must be some kind of keepsake.
If you're going to Mike's parents' place, wear this.
But it's precious to you, Mom.
So, you see,
My mother said, her smile light as a feather.
that's why I want you to wear it. Because it's
A pendant that brings good luck. Huh? I wonder if that's true. A week later, I was on my way to Mike's parents' home, Mike by my side. My mother's pendant was hanging around my neck. I felt shy about showing it to others, so I was careful to keep it hidden. In the end, spurred on by my mother, I decided to go and greet Mike's family. Marriage. The weight of this word was immense. Could I really be happy? No, the bigger question was, would Mike be accepted by his family?
We'll be there soon,
Said Mike, who was unusually quiet as he gripped the steering wheel, seemingly more nervous than usual. We were heading to a place on the outskirts, abundant with nature. A place where celebrities and wealthy folks built their vacation homes, a typical spot for the rich. It seemed that Mike's family lived in such a place. Hey, Mike, are you by any chance rich?
Well, my family is. But I'm just a regular guy, a regular office worker. You know how I'm always saying I'm broke.
I know all too well because you couldn't even pay for the cab fare and had to stay over. I had an image of rich kids being spoiled, but I wondered if their parents were strict. Or perhaps they were annoyed by their son. Either way, I had a feeling this wasn't going to be easy. I wanted to show my mother what I'd look like as a bride. I had to make that dream come true.
We're here, Clara.
Mike said as he parked the car. I looked up at the large mansion in front of us, and I could already feel my heart sinking.
We're back, Mom. This is Clara Smith, who I'm dating.
Welcome back. And welcome, Clara. I'm Susan, Mike's mother. I've heard a lot about you from Mike. Please come in.
Thank you. Susan seemed vaguely reminiscent of my mother. Sure, my currently thin as a stick mother and Susan were worlds apart in physique, but there was a certain vibe about Susan that felt similar. I was relieved. As I stepped in from the entrance, an overwhelmingly opulent space greeted me. It was like a movie set, something I had only seen in films. But this was my boyfriend's family home. The signs of daily life scattered around spoke volumes that this wasn't a set. I was guided to the guest room. A fluffy sofa, clearly expensive carpet, and a large chandelier on the ceiling. The interior itself was so overwhelming it left me speechless.
I'm sorry we couldn't offer much of a reception.
Susan apologized. And no, not at all. It's already too amazing for me. Seeing my reaction, Susan chuckled. Her laughing figure was also somehow reminiscent of my mother.
Sorry I'm late. I'm John, Mike's father. Please, make yourself comfortable.
A man with a stern expression appeared from the back. It was Mike's father, John. My first impression was that he seemed quite sincere.
Sorry for the sudden visit, Dad, Mom.
Mike started, noticing my nervousness. After some casual conversation to lighten the mood, I'd been thinking about marrying my girlfriend, he suddenly announced. It seemed that John and Susan had expected it. They looked at each other and nodded.
We thought something was up when you, who never contacts us, suddenly came home.
John remarked. Then he turned to me and asked.
Clara, are you sure about Mike?
His tone was gentle. From my interactions with Mike, I had learned the kind of people John and Susan were. They were genuinely caring people who loved their son. Yes, I choose Mike, but... The next words left my mouth without me even realizing it. My mom's sick, She doesn't have much time left. That was what I was about to say when...
No.
John's stern voice hit my ears. Huh? John's expression had completely changed to a stern one, as if he was looking at an enemy. I snapped to my senses.
Mike, please take her home. We weren't accepting this marriage.
Dad,
Please wait. I didn't want my mom's medical expenses. That wasn't my goal. No, rather, my mom was already. Those words spun around in my mind but wouldn't form. If I said it, it would be like admitting my mom was going to be gone.
Listen, Dad, Clara's mom is.
It's all right, Mike. I weakly shook my head. Thank you for your time. I bowed deeply. Is marriage impossible after all? But I guess it can't be helped. Just as I thought that.
Wait, Clara, that pendant.
It seemed to have spilled from my chest as I was bowing. A simple pendant that was completely out of place in this luxurious house. I felt embarrassed and hurriedly tried to put away the pendant, but
Could you please let us see it?
Susan's voice was serious. I took off the pendant and presented it to Susan. Upon examining the pendant, Susan
I thought so.
let out a deep sigh. It seemed John felt the same. The fierceness from earlier was gone, and he was staring at the pendant with a serious expression.
May we hold it?
Nodding to John's inquiry, I looked on. He tenderly touched the pendant as if it were a priceless treasure, and then said,
Thank you. By the way, Clara,
"Oh, yes."
I apologize for raising my voice earlier. May I ask, what was your mother's name?
It's Erica Smith.
Is that Erica, as in Erica spelled with the characters Grace, Village, and Beautiful?
Yes, that's correct. What brought this on all of a sudden?
Do you have a picture of her?
I do. I showed them a photo on my smartphone.
I thought so.
He said. Both John and Susan, looking satisfied, started to share his story.
Me and Erica were always together.
Susan explained. Susan looked up, seemingly lost in old memories. She was probably reminiscing about the happy times.
John and I, we were each other's first loves. We started dating in high school and have been together ever since.
Huh? I reacted. What a sweet story. Most people end up parting ways at some point.
But it was Erica, your mother, who brought us together.
My mom.
Yes, Erica was close to Susan back then. We were part of a small club, just the three of us, always together. She was always the one stuck with the grunt work.
I was surprised. I had no idea that my mom had any connection with Mike's family.
Me and Erica were very close, not sure why, but they ended up falling for the same guy.
Susan continued. And that was John. The fact that Susan is here with him now means that my mom wasn't chosen.
Erica was very passionate and was constantly making moves on John, but
I was in love with Susan. I just saw Erica as a friend.
John confessed. For my mom, it was an unrequited love. Mom loved John, but John loved Susan, and Susan also loved John. To come between two people who loved each other, my mom couldn't do that. I knew it all too well. After all, my mom was the type to care more about others than herself.
one day, Erica told us, I hope you two will be happy. Despite her feelings for John, she thought about our happiness and chose to step aside. After that, it was business as usual. As if nothing had happened, she stayed with us until graduation.
Susan recalled. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. To keep interacting as usual while watching the person you love be with your best friend. If it were me, I'd distance myself from them immediately. But Mom didn't do that. I bet it was because she cared for both John and Susan. She probably decided to watch over them until graduation. She stayed with them to the end.
That pendant, it's a symbol of the promise between me and Erica. After graduation, we promised each other that we'd each find happiness and meet again.
Susan explained, looking at my chest.
I was threatened that if I didn't make Susan happy, she wouldn't forgive me.
John added, rubbing his chin with a wry smile. That sounded like my mom. Actually, my mother was married once before. I revealed. But I heard they broke up right away. And then, having no one to turn to as an orphan, she took me in and raised me as their own daughter. I have no one. After losing my real parents in an accident, I had no one to rely on. The person who extended their hand to me was Mom. The most important person to me. The person I want to be with more than anyone else. But Mom is sick, She won't make it much longer. I know her life isn't long." John and Susan were speechless. Their faces showed that they couldn't believe it was that dire. "The day I said I was going to visit your parents, Mom gave me this pendant. Maybe Mom knew something about Mike. Maybe she investigated my best friend's family at some point. Maybe she saw the resemblance of those two in Mike. It's all just a possibility. But still, Mom entrusted the pendant to me. A precious item filled with memories of her loved ones, given to me who wasn't her real daughter. Just a mother wishing for her daughter's happiness, doing what's expected. Just like how I wished to show off my bridal look, Mom was trying to make me happy in her own way."
Clara, what's wrong?
Tears were falling, one after another, down my cheeks. Again and again. Endlessly, they were flowing. Then,
Clara, a call. It's from the hospital.
Mike handed me his smartphone. I tried to steady my voice to avoid sounding tearful as I picked up the call. "Yes."
Is this Clara Smith's mobile? I'm a doctor from XXX Hospital.
I had a feeling.
Your mother, Erica, is not in a good state. Can you come right away?
"I'll be there. I promise. I'll be there. There's something I still haven't told Mom."
I'll get the car ready.
Mike quickly left the room. I immediately got ready.
Clara, we'll follow with Susan later. Don't worry about us. Just use Mike to your advantage.
I bowed to the two of them. Even though they had made time for me, I didn't get much of a chance to talk.
Once everything has settled down, let's talk again. If you can shed tears for your family, I feel I can trust you with Mike.
John and Susan smiled calmly. I bowed again, and then I heard the car horn outside. I rushed out of the room. 3 years have passed. Mom passed away just as I arrived at the hospital. I didn't get to say goodbye, nor express the things I wanted to, but somehow I feel like she's still watching over me.
Mama, Papa,
Oh, Sophie, it's Papa here.
your beard hurts.
Today, I, Mike, and our daughter Sophie are visiting my mother's grave. Mike, on the other hand, is totally smitten with our daughter, getting hurt by her innocent words. I, for my part, have returned to work, gradually getting my body used to the routine. These are peaceful and happy days. Looking at the frolicking Sophie, I suddenly wonder if my mother felt the same way.
There's Grandma's grave.
Careful when running, Sophie.
She's quite a handful. Might give my mom a start.
Of course not. My mother was quite a lively one. She's probably having a blast with Sophie. If my mother were still alive, she would undoubtedly have been close to Sophie. I had such a feeling, almost a conviction.
Oh, looks like someone else visited before us.
Following Mike's voice and glancing from Sophie to the grave, there were indeed flowers already laid out there. Really? Perhaps your dad?
Most likely.
The bond between the three of them continues, even now. From a pendant, now transformed into memories.
What's that pink flower, I wonder?
Well, that eyes. A pink flower with bell-shaped petals, swaying in the wind. The flower is named Erica. Symbolizing loneliness and solitude, it sways with determination, as if to defy those feelings. With a gentle color,